Welcome to Conservation Beyond the Cage, the official podcast of the Rare Species Conservatory Foundation. RSCF is a nonprofit organization specializing in breeding and recovery strategies for some of the world's rarest wildlife. Here, we go beyond headlines and hashtags, beyond exhibits and press releases, to bring you the truth about species conservation and the people behind the programs fighting every day to save what remains of nature. Each episode is a journey into the forests, the labs, the rescue centers, and the policy rooms where science, expertise, and courage intersect. We're here to inform, to enlighten, and to inspire a deeper understanding of what real conservation looks like, up close, unfiltered, and undeniably urgent. Because this isn't just about saving individual species, it's about saving wildlife and wild places. This is Conservation Beyond the Cage.
Conservation heroes saving endangered species. It's a story we all want to believe. But what happens when that inspiring narrative turns out to be an elaborate smokescreen for wildlife trafficking worth millions?
This is Conservation Beyond the Cage, where we take you behind the scenes of species conservation.
This story is about Martin Guth and the famous critically endangered spixes macaw, and exposes how conservation can be exploited by people with the right connections and enough audacity.
Well, here's what makes it so fascinating. We've got Guth, a former debt collector from East Germany, who served 5 years for robbery and extortion, and somehow reinvents himself as this global parrot savior. The transformation is almost unbelievable.
The way he specifically targeted and acquired the spixes macaw shows real calculation, though. These brilliant blue parrots were literally extinct in the wild. You couldn't pick a better species to build your conservation credentials around.
And build he did. Through his organization, the Association for the Conservation of Threatened Parrots, or ACTP, he managed to position himself at the center of this supposed conservation miracle. When 10 spixes macaws from ACTP were released in Brazil in 2022, the headlines were glowing. But behind those carefully orchestrated photo ops, something much darker was brewing.
So, what exactly tipped people off that something wasn't right with ACTP?
Well, for starters, this supposed conservation organization operated more like a private club. No annual reports, no public access, board members who were basically just family and friends. But the real red flags started appearing when people began tracking the money. Journalists and conservationists uncovered signs that Guth was brokering high-dollar deals for endangered species, sometimes for 75,000 euros or more per bird.
Prices mentioned in leaked WhatsApp messages between Guth and an animal broker are just staggering. 20,000 euros for a golden-headed lion tamarin. 50,000 euros for golden lion tamarins. The list goes on.
And that's just what we know about. The messages also revealed deals being arranged through shell companies in Abu Dhabi, with suggestions of no paperwork, no trace. We're talking about sophisticated international wildlife trafficking hidden behind a conservation facade.
The way this operation expanded is particularly concerning, especially with the connection to Von Terra in India.
Oh yes, let me paint this picture. Instead of continuing the release program in Brazil, Guth sends 26 spixes macaws to this supposed luxury animal rescue center in India without Brazilian approval. But this isn't just any facility. We're talking about a private collection of 45,000 wild animals, including 271 leopards and 181 lions, backed by India's wealthiest family.
The numbers are just mind-boggling. How does a facility acquire that many endangered animals without raising more red flags?
That's the genius of their system. They've created this perfect shield using conservation permits and high-level connections. Every transaction can be justified as a rescue or transfer for breeding purposes. And who's going to question you when you're supposedly saving endangered species?
The impact on legitimate conservation efforts must be devastating.
Exactly. Think about all the funding and support that's been diverted to these fake operations. Every dollar that goes to these schemes is a dollar that could have been supporting actual conservation work. And the really tragic part? The spixes macaw reintroduction program has completely stalled, with Brazilian authorities severing ties with ACTP.
Well, that's heartbreaking, especially after that celebrated release in 2022.
And here's what really keeps me up at night. We're probably only seeing the tip of the iceberg. The combination of conservation credentials, wealthy backers, and complex international transactions creates this perfect storm where illegal wildlife trading can hide in plain sight.
Though it seems like that cover might finally be wearing thin, with major publications like The Guardian and Audubon starting to investigate. Recent investigative reporting by a journalist for Germany's most prominent daily newspaper reveals Guth and ACTP's role in procuring and selling endangered animals and parrots.
You're right, and that's crucial. Because until we see real reform in how conservation projects are monitored and regulated, these endangered species will continue to be treated as luxury commodities for the ultra-wealthy. The future of these species literally depends on our ability to distinguish real conservation from elaborate fraud and expose it.
The Spixes macaw story should have been one of the greatest conservation wins of our time. Instead, it's become a warning sign. Let's hope this case becomes the wake-up call that forces some actual change in the system.
Well, that's going to depend on whether governments and conservation organizations are willing to implement stricter oversight and close these loopholes. Because right now, those spixes macaws are still sitting in cages thousands of miles from their native habitat, while the people who put them there continue to profit from their conservation empire.
The Spixes macaw flew again in 2022, but today its future is murky. And unless accountability returns to conservation, this bird's second chance may be its last.
In the meantime, this isn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. These species deserve better, and we must be their voice. We must be vigilant, loud, truthful, and transparent. There will be much more to come. Stay tuned for further updates.
Thanks for joining this episode of Conservation Beyond the Cage. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and follow. You can find us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as our website, rarespecies.org. Your support helps us continue our mission to protect wildlife and wild places.